Yo, welcome to the show, BroMob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is October 7th, and we have a doozy for you today. Why are you giggling?
I just remember last week where you came in on a on a stallion. Just
BroMob,
my
great episode. We had a third host, the great old Zach Kaminsky, in the show. It was a good time. You should go check it out.
It was really great.
Don't tune in out of this episode because it's about to be real good.
Oh, we're about to get it real.
What?
I don't know why I said it that way. The face, don't know. Don't have it. I don't have answers.
That's
all I have.
No beard. Well, beard, but clean.
I mean, I like you with this look. I mean,
I like you. Yes. You're a good guy.
Let me just, before I get into it, let me let you know, I think we should get an apartment together. That said, I like it. It's a good look for you. Yeah, it's a good look. You should
go on.
I was gonna say you should keep it this way. Like, just, instead of looking like a homeless man,
Yes.
but sometimes you do. This is a nice little change of pace for you.
Every once in a while, I like to go rugged mountain man that's been out of society for years. And then I look like that. Like there's maybe a bird in there. It's fun.
I'll tell you what, you look about 10 years younger. So
I look super young.
Which puts you at your real age, because when that thing is growing, you look about 50. So
very true.
Yeah.
Never ID'd with that big beard. I do have the mustache though. Look at this.
I was gonna say, I noticed that the mustache was still slightly long. You need to stop that right now. That looks terrible. My question is for you is, why do you not walk around with a Hogan stash constantly? You're realizing.
Society wouldn't accept it, Brian.
Oh, okay. Well, now it makes sense. Now it makes complete sense.
Only Hogan can do that.
Yes.
Others.
Does he have the Hogan stash trademarked? Like, if somebody's wearing it, they have to pay him. That's what he should do.
Have a mustache.
Excuse me, sir. That stash is trademarked. You owe me $500,000.
Listen here, brother. You owe me some money.
That, or you have to take a leg drop off the top of this Ferris wheel.
The Ferris wheel?
Not a Ferris wheel. What's the thing that spins? And you get on it and like you got to push it around in a circle with your leg. What's that thing called? Merry-go-round? No, that's not it.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like they're at a playground? What's the thing at a playground?
Yeah,
you get on it.
Metal things.
Caused a lot of injuries to children back when I was growing up.
Yeah, a whole lot of whiplash.
Our whole goal in school was to get that thing moving at warp speed and just see how many people could hang on. That was the goal. I remember that.
Videos. People take a scooter and they put the wheel on it and they just spinning it a million.
I have seen that. Yes.
Those are the best. Speaking of the best, we have the best advice coming your way right now. We're going to be talking stats of the season. We're at the quarter-way point of the season, BroMob. So we're going to go through some very interesting stats, things to kind of look towards and things to be interested with.
Yes.
Interessante.
Ready to take some notes.
I don't know why the ghost effect.
I'm going to take some notes with this guy.
Please do.
Yeah.
Week 5 streamers coming your way, and of course our love, like, and hates. He's still taking notes with the symbol. He's taking notes. Here's the thing: he's just shaking it like he's doing something.
Oh, there was no note taking.
Oh no, never.
No,
never.
No.
Brian, before we get into it, though, I got a question for you. Who is the one player that you're trying to trade for in half-point per reception leagues?
That's a great question. So I mean, there's obvious answers here. Like, you could pick like Christian McCaffrey or some of these. I'm going to go a little deeper and look for some guy that you might be able to go get decently cheap. He's probably down on the bench a little bit with some players, but I think he has potential, especially with the upcoming schedule. that he has here in the next few weeks. But and that is running back Antonio Gibson of the Washington Redskins. And here's what I like about him, Chad. So if you look at his schedule of the next 12 games, 8 of his next 12 games, he plays teams in the bottom half of the league in against running backs. So he's a very, very favorable schedule, and especially this next like 4 or 5 games coming up, they're very cake matchups. Opposed to what he started with, he actually had some decently difficult matchups to start the season, and he's done well for a rookie, especially for a rookie, Chad, that has had, well, I don't know, was it like 42 carries in his college career? And you know, he was a guy that I really liked as a sleeper this year. I drafted him and have hung on to him, and I'm glad I did. He had a breakout week finally this week in week 4. And you know what I like about him is the touches have increased week over week. He had 17 total touches between the ground and air this past week. Scored the first touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens defense on the season by a running back. And that's, you go back to like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, David Johnson, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, all those running backs have gone against this defense. He's the one that was able to crack the code and get in the end zone this week with them. Had a good game, really good game this week or this past week. And I like him going forward. It seems like Washington is going to continue to trust him more and more and more. The only thing that bothers me, and I think this will climb as the season goes on, is his snap percentage on the year. He's averaging right around the like 40-50% snap percentage. I'd like to see that climb into the 60s or 70s before I'm gung-ho on a every week starter. But I think there's some matchups here where you could use him as a flex, and I think this week might be one of them.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going for a bigger name running back, and that is Miles Sanders.
Yes.
And Miles Sanders, look, it looks like he's underperforming, but he's really not. The team's just not using him as much as they should be. And you might be saying that that's kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are giving him 15 to 20 carries, and like he hasn't hit the 20 carry mark, but he's getting anywhere from 15 to 20 carries or touches in a game. He's averaging, I think, a 4.6 yards per carry right now with this last game. But before that, he was in the 5s. He was looking good. Miles Sanders is bound to start settling down and getting better looks, better touches, better everything. And I'm going to be jumping all over that while the fantasy managers that have him are getting a little frustrated with his lackluster, not the worst performances, but like lower teens performances, not doing what they're expecting out of him. So I'm going after him as hard as I can, wherever I can.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I see the value in trying to trade for him. I'm sure a lot of teams are going to be pivoting on Miles Sanders. He did just go against the 49ers defense, which is tied for the best defense against the run for running backs in fantasy this year. They're only averaging 10 points per game. One thing that did bother me, though, and I would be concerned, is when the game was kind of on the line at the end of the game, it wasn't Miles Sanders that was in the game. It was Boston Scott. And that bothers me. That's one thing that I just hate. I can't stand about Eagles running backs is, you know, that I don't know what it is with the head coaching staff or the coaching staff there, but they like to mix it up too much. And that's just, it hurts for fantasy. I talked about this leading up to the season. It's why I wasn't as hot about Miles Sanders as you were because of stuff like this. I know somebody specifically that lost the game because of this type of usage. And so, yeah, I do know them quite well. His name rhymes with Spain. And this week he's enjoying that loss quite well. You're welcome. So, but I needed that. I'm very happy that happened, but also if we're talking about fantasy overall, it bothers me.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, but you're going to kind of get that. I mean, Joe Mixon wasn't looking too good, and then look what just happened. I mean, they're studs for a reason.
Sure.
Sometimes you just need to get acclimated to the offense that's going on and just get acclimated to the season, and then boom.
Right. And I will say 78% snap percentage. He's on the field most of the game. So that's what you want in a starting running back. So he's on the field when it matters. I just think it was a really bad matchup for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. So I'd be going after him, and I like yours of Antonio Gibson as well, Brian. So before we get into it, BroMob, let's just give you the highlight of this week's buys. We've got the Packers and the Lions. If you're starting any of those guys, don't be, because they aren't playing.
You're going to get a 0.
Find some replacements and do your thing. Before we get into the show, be sure to follow along after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast. Check out our TikTok page at Fantasy Football Bros. We got a lot of traction going on there, a lot of videos. Brian's been up and at it at TikTok. He's been killing it, doing his thing. So it's exploding.
Crushing.
Exactly.
I'm doing what we like to say, crushing TikTok. Why am I talking like this?
I don't know. I don't understand why we're doing this. Be sure to check out our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com, for all kinds of news, articles, and so much more. BroMob, let's get into the news. Keanu news. Texans, big news here. The Texans have fired Bill O'Brien and will be moving forward with Romeo Crennel as the interim head coach. Ouch. Nothing's worse than Bill O'Brien and what's been going on there lately. There's really nobody else to trace back their issues or their problems other than him, who took over head coach, GM, pretty much God role for the team. So, bye, Bill O'Brien. Brian, what's this do to the team overall?
So, Romeo Crennel steps in as the interim head coach going forward. He is a defensive coach. So, history's kind of as a gauge. Defensive coaches will run the ball typically more. I think this is a positive for guys like David Johnson. It's probably a downtick for passing and stuff like that. So Will Fuller's probably still somebody that you want to keep on your roster and that you definitely want to probably keep in your lineup. But beyond that, I don't like it at all. I'd imagine Crennel's probably going to want to manage the clock, try to keep the ball on the offensive side of the ball as much as possible to keep his defense clean and not clean, but fresh. That's what I meant to say. Fresh and clean. So fresh is clean. So I think sorry, in my mind, man. So David Johnson, I think, is the main benefactor here. And then I would say too, from a real football standpoint, I believe the Miami Dolphins hold the Houston Texans #1 draft pick. So yeah, probably good news for them too. So
yeah, they own the first and second round draft pick.
Jeez.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of just my side of it. Bill O'Brien was calling plays, and now he's gone. Crennel comes in. He's going to have to, on the fly, come up with some plays, some play calling that this offense, and he hasn't done that in a while. So I agree. I think there's going to be more of a run-focused offense for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks before they get a little bit more comfortable and start opening up a new playbook and a new scheme and a new design. Like it's going to be rough.
Yeah, I don't see this being something. Crennel's not going to come in and be super creative. You're not going to see a lot of motion and all this
Yeah.
It's going to be a very vanilla offense, a pound the rock, control the clock, try to keep the score low, and let's see how many wins we can get. I think, again, David Johnson's in for a heavy workload, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Duke Johnson get a little involvement. He's somebody that, in deeper leagues, you might want to just grab him and stuff him on your bench. If you're a David Johnson owner, you should absolutely have Duke Johnson on your team, by the way, especially now. Go grab him off the waivers if he's there, or try to, I don't know if you're probably going to have to cough up something for a trade, but if he's available, I would stash him.
Yep, agreed. Moving on, we've got Bucks tight end OJ Howard tore his Achilles and has been placed on IR. Terrible news for a very talented tight end. Too bad he's on the wrong offense. But Brian, do you think this helps Gronkowski in any way or any tight end in this offense in any way?
Well, so OJ Howard is actually getting targets. I mean, over the last 4 weeks, you're talking I think he had almost 20 targets through 4 weeks. So at the end of the day, he was getting looks. Now he wasn't coming down with the ball much, and he did have 2 touchdowns on the season, which was the only reason why he was fantasy relevant. But other than that, I don't trust any tight end on this offense. I'm not taking a flyer on Gronkowski. If anything, this helps guys like I actually think it helps guys like Evans and Godwin, obviously, but I also think it is a big boost for guys like Ronald Jones, Scotty Miller, Ronald Jones. Those guys are going to get a little bit more targets. And if you actually look historically speaking, anytime a tight end or a wide receiver goes down and you lose somebody like that, typically the running back will actually see a slight uptick in targets. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen a little bit too. But, again, we're talking about averaging maybe 5-6 targets a game from a tight end. I'm not really too excited about those targets going somewhere else. Oh, they're going to let's spread 6 targets a game. Okay, big deal. Let's not overreact.
Yeah. Speaking of overreact, I shouldn't say overreacting. So COVID news, 0 positives for the Titans for the second straight day, and it's sounding like they're going to be opening up the facility on Wednesday. Big news for people that were a little bit worried about some reports that were coming out saying the Titans might even miss week 5 with all of the COVID positive tests and stuff. But considering that there's been 0 new positives, they're opening up facilities. They're getting ready for the week. Business as usual, it sounds like.
Yep, bid-ass.
Back onto COVID, Cam Newton has been asymptomatic for the last few days now. They're saying he might be able to play week 5, but it might be unlikely that he does. So still look for some backup, some other option there at the quarterback position. If you have Cam Newton, I'm expecting you to probably have another quarterback because you probably took him late. Or if he's your only option, that's okay. We got some streamer options to talk about later in the show, so that's fine. We got you covered, BroMob. So Cam Newton, if he's out, we got you. If not, put him in there. Of course, he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback on the season with his rushing prowess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be shocked to see him play. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, I don't think he plays.
No. And then finally, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the beard himself, will remain the starter for the Dolphins in week 5. So the fact that they're bringing this up sounds like the team is possibly, they're at least in the background talking about a shift to Tua. Brian, do you think this is the week that fantasy managers need to be going and adding Tua to their rosters if they want him on their team?
Yeah, if you have a roster spot to stash him, sure. I mean, if you're running a 1 quarterback team, sure, maybe grab him and stuff him down there for a couple weeks. But I'm going to be very clear about this. And I've listened to guys like Colin Cowherd and a lot of these, big industry buffs that are calling for it's time for Tua. I wholeheartedly disagree. You and I talked about this before the season started, Chad. I think you roll with Ryan Fitzpatrick rest of season. Let Tua have a year to heal. He is your future. You're the Dolphins. You're not going anywhere. You're in the same division as the freaking Patriots and the Bills. You're not going to make the playoffs. Just stop. So let Ryan Fitzpatrick go out there and do his thing. Let him finish the year out, and then let Tua have an entire offseason with his team. You've got potentially 2 top first-round picks, 2 top 5 first-round picks possibly. Draft some offensive linemen, trade back, grab some picks, build an offensive line to protect this kid, get some talent, young talent around him, and roll him out next year. What are you going to accomplish with Tua out there this year? What good will that accomplish? You're in no contention for playoffs. Yeah, exactly. You're in 0 contention for the playoffs. The only thing I heard that made sense here is if the Dolphins thought for 1 second, well, we just don't know what we have. And you wanted to roll them out there for a week, to see what you have so that now whether you have to draft a quarterback next year with one of those top 5 picks, that would be the only time it would make sense. Hey, guess what? You're out. You're not going to make the playoffs. Do that in week 16 and 17 if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Or weeks, or roll them out week 15. Get 3 weeks of to see what you have and then roll it. But I think it's asinine to even think about it. So I personally, I don't think the Dolphins are going to do it. I think they're going to roll with Ryan Fitzpatrick the rest of the season. But if you think that you might need it, then grab him. But I mean, at the end of the day, Chad, and I think you and I both know this, there's no shortage of fantasy points in the quarterback position this year.
There's not.
I mean, Josh Allen and Dak and Russell Wilson have been lighting it up. But look, every week there's a guy on the waivers you can grab. Herbert has been a pleasant surprise, hardly rostered. So, look, let's not overreact. That's kind of my feeling.
Yeah, I hear you. I look at the talent of Tua, and I know wholeheartedly he's going to be a stud in this league, like a Russell Wilson type of talent.
Absolutely, he's a Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott type talent. Sure, he can move with his legs. He's got a accurate throw. He'll be fine. That's why I feel like why would you want to risk his future in the future of your franchise just to get some wins and feel good? Like, no, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to do just fine. You'll probably be a 7-9 team with him, maybe even a 6-10 team. You're going to have a top 10 pick. You're going to get likely a top 5 pick from Houston, and who knows? Yeah, and who knows? Maybe the number 1 overall. They are a dumpster fire. So
yeah, possibly.
You never know. So I just think you stay the course and you use those picks to build an offensive line and a team around this kid. I don't think you give him the chance and the weapons and the stuff that that guys like Pat Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott have around. Look at the talent around these guys. Give him that type of talent and a coaching staff that's halfway competent, and he'll be fine.
Could you imagine if they go offensive lineman and then also Jamar Chase?
Oh my God.
Ridiculous.
Jeez.
All right. BroMob, we're a quarter way of the season or through the season. What? Let's talk about some stats.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
Great.
Bad time to drink there, Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, I'm going to go through some really interesting things here. Some really big time players, some big time stats going on this season, some record breaking stats even. So I'm going to start it off here with my number one thing I want to talk about. Right now, the NFL's leading rushers are Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones. Respectively, they have both ran for 424 yards and 374 yards. I'll be the first one to say that I was wrong about Aaron Jones in the offseason. I thought for sure this team was going to be committed, and it has been a little bit, but Aaron Jones is still the explosive dynamite running back that he is. So Aaron Jones lighting it up just like Dalvin Cook. What I do want to point out here, though, Brian, is that Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, is the 12th highest rushing player in the league right now. He's the 12th most rushing yards on the season with like 256 yards. That is insane. I mean,
yeah.
Lamar Jackson, I think, is all the way down at like 19, maybe even 20. So Kyler Murray is going bazonkers right now. And the funny thing is, Brian, he's also leading the league in yards per rush. Like he's lighting it up down there in Arizona.
Yeah, he's having a season, and we talked about it, Chad. We knew. I mean, you had him as your QB1 on the season. I had him at QB, I think 3, and so we said this is going to be a guy that breaks out this year, and one of his most valuable assets are his feet and his ability to scramble and run the ball. So he'll continue that inside the 10. He's dangerous. I mean, he can easily scramble for touchdowns. He's very elusive. He's got the ability. It almost looks effortless. It's very Russell Wilson style, like where he can just move around and run. And I think it's the background in baseball. These guys they understand how to kind of move differently than most quarterbacks. And so he can elude guys just like Russell Wilson. And so he reminds me a lot of Russell. And I think he's it's no surprise to me. It really isn't, because we talked about it in the off season.
Yeah, where he's struggling on turnovers, I'm sure that'll get corrected as he gets through the yips of the beginning of the season here. But I mean, 7-way tie for the second most rushing touchdowns. He's got 4 on the year. The only player with more rushing touchdowns is Dalvin Cook with 6. He's
Jeez.
averaging more yards per game than Alvin Kamara, Todd Gurley, and Chris Carson. I mean, these are players that are rushing the ball a ton. So I mean, Kyler Murray's rushing more than them. He's having himself a season. Let's move into our second stat point here. For wide receivers, DK Metcalf and Stephon Diggs are tied for the most receiving yards in the league with 403 yards. I got one right and one wrong here because I did not believe that Stephon Diggs was going to be this good to start the season. It usually takes a wide receiver in a new system a little bit of time to get acclimated, a little bit of time to get in sync with his new quarterback. Diggs didn't need any of that. He's doing great. He's looking great. Josh Allen is putting together an MVP-esque, yes, I've said it. I didn't believe it earlier in the season, but he's putting together a great season. And DK Metcalf called it all day. Love the guy. He's a beast. I don't care. I'm putting it out there. I'm the best. Called it. He's the best. 403 receiving yards. Should be 404 receiving yards with 0 fumbles on the season. But, I mean, who's counting? DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, huge season. Brian, here's the thing about DK Metcalf, though. It both gives me a little bit of pump the brakes and a little bit of optimism at the same time. He's not even in the top 20 of the league, top 20 players in the league for targets this season. He's averaging more than 25 yards per reception. That's number 1 in the league. So, I mean, Russell Wilson's throwing deep balls left and right. He's getting 4 catches for anywhere between 90 and 110 yards per game. It's like clockwork. It's pretty astronomical how consistent he's been. That number of yards per reception is bound to regress. It's bound to come down to a little bit of a better number, something more like 17 or 18. It's still high, but I could see that being more like his season-long average. So I expect that to go down, but I do expect his targets to come up. So I'm seeing a little bit of regression, but also I'm still feeling good about DK Metcalf season long.
Yeah, and so this is the one thing that I like about. That's why I kept saying, like, I like whole season. I like Tyler Lockett over DK, is because Lockett tends to get more targets. So far, he's got 33 to DK's 28, and so Russell's just. I mean, Russell's winging it, but he's winging it down the field, and which is why DK has had such a year. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the thing is that scares me with that, like just like you, is how sustainable are 60-yard bombs to DK Metcalf. You know what I mean? So I think ultimately it should turn around. DK, I think, you're not moving off of him. I'm not moving off of him. I'm going to stay in the flames. And I give it to you. I give it to you all day long. He has exceeded my expectations. I didn't see these bombs happening. He's also become a more crisp route runner this year than he was last year. So, but I still, of the two, I would still rest of season want to own Tyler Lockett over him. That's just me personally. I know you're probably not the same. Stephon Diggs definitely has been a surprise.
Yeah, big time. Other big time, maybe not. I expected big numbers from O'Brien, but I mean, Dak Prescott's currently averaging 422.5 yards per game. That's 90 more yards than the next person up. Josh Allen. He's got 300. Josh Allen has 330 yards per game. 422 yards per game is insane.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Look, first of all, no one anticipated this. It has everything to do with the mere fact that Dallas's defense is a giant dumpster inside of a dump in like your local dump, and the entire city's on fire, including the dump. Like, that's how bad this defense is. It might be the worst defense in Cowboys history. It's terrible. Easily. It's terrible. And so, Dak has to throw for 400 yards a game, because that's the only way that 400 passes a game. He has to throw for 400 yards a game because that's the only way they have a chance of winning. Teams are putting up 40, 50 points a game against these guys. So, for fantasy purposes, you hope that the defense stays terrible.
For Cowboys purposes.
Yeah.
Me purposes. I want them to get better.
I don't know, man. This was not expected.
I mean, historically speaking, the last 3 games they've allowed over 120 points. That's most in Cowboys history. I think Dak is on pace to easily lead the league, not even just this first quarter, for the entire season for yards passing. Dak might throw for 5,800 yards. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's I think he's on pace to one. He tied. I think he tied, or I believe he tied Peyton Manning's record for the first 4 games or something like that. Or maybe I'm thinking of Russell Wilson. Somebody tied some kind of record. I think it might have been Russell Wilson now that I'm thinking about it. But I mean, he's going to shatter Cowboys records if this continues.
Yeah, he already is. So it's crazy. And then the last bullet that I have here, Brian, the last bit of stats are some names that are lesser known than Dak Prescott. I shouldn't say lesser known, lesser managed, lesser started. And that is Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, and Joe Burrow. The reason I'm saying these names is because all 3 of those quarterbacks are in the top 10 in the league for passing yards on the season. And I think it's going to continue. That's the funny thing. These are teams that are constantly playing from behind. They're constantly trying to win the games by throwing the ball a whole bunch. And Teddy Bridgewater's starting to look comfortable. Have you noticed this? Like, he's actually starting to look a lot better than he did those first 2 weeks. And now these last 2 weeks, he's looked good. Like, he's turning the ball around. He's comfortable in there. He's not getting sacked. Like, he's avoiding the sack. It's looking good. Gardner Minshew, Detective Minshew all day. I love his mustache. Move on there. Joe Burrow.
I would say too, Chad, that look, we got to realize these guys didn't have a preseason. So there was no preseason, there was no dress rehearsal, and even practice was really it wasn't normal. It wasn't a normal offseason. There was all these COVID preventions. So these teams, it's not surprising that they're taking a while to gel, especially teams with new coaches, new offensive systems, and new quarterbacks, which guess who that might fall in line with? Oh, I don't know. Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Burrow. So, it's not surprising to me that it took a while for them to kind of, get into a rhythm and get into sync here a little bit, especially Teddy Bridgewater. And so, there might be some guys out there that don't think Teddy Bridgewater is worth a can of beans, but he currently is sitting at 6th in the league in passing yards on the season. And so as he gets more familiar with the receivers around him, it wouldn't surprise me to see things tighten up a bit. And all of a sudden you start seeing players really pop out, which is why last week I talked so much about wanting to trade for and hold on to guys like DJ Moore, because in my opinion, DJ Moore is the most talented wide receiver on the squad. That's no knock on Robbie Anderson. I think he's talented as well. But DJ Moore is the number 1 wide receiver. Not only not statistically right now, but he is the guy in the number 1 spot. He's the guy getting the more of the looks. And at the end of the day, eventually he and Teddy are going to figure it out. Not to mention, look, DJ Moore's drawing the better coverage. Mm-hmm. So he's getting the tougher matchups, the better coverage, and they've been playing pretty good passing defenses. So these are defenses that have a decent corner, and they're on guys like DJ Moore, which is leaving Robbie Anderson in one-on-one coverages and easier matchups, which is why he's open more, in my opinion. So I think that will shift at some point in the season.
Yep. All right, time to shift into our next segment. Not new segment, next segment.
Yes.
Brian, let's talk love, like, and hate. Sunglasses.
Yes.
Brian, we're going to get right through these. I want to hear every bit of these names you got going on because you stole some of mine. He's got Simba up. He's got his sunglasses up, and he's scratching his nose. That is Brian. He is the worst.
Let me tell you, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this list because last week I crushed it, and I had so many wins that it was too bright. And so this week I brought the shades in, and my buddy Simba here to really lay it on the line and let you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm ready, Chad. I'm ready.
Okay. You had that one written down. Apparently you've been waiting to say that joke.
Nope.
For an entire
Just
week.
thought that off the top of my head.
Perfect. Brian, let's get into quarterbacks. I'll start it off with you.
Love.
All right. So my love this week is a guy that I just talked about, runs around with his feet. He's crushing it. I believe he just tied Peyton Manning for the first 4 weeks in touchdown throws. I just looked that up while we were waiting. So Russell freaking Wilson, guys. All right. Russell Wilson, the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. They're at home this week. So last week was tough. They went on the road. They're across the United States over in Miami on the East Coast. Anytime you got to travel that far, it's tough on a team. But this week, you've got a squad coming in Minnesota, and you're at home. Now, you don't have the 12th man. I'm going to put Simba down for a second, Chad. Okay, I got to concentrate. He's getting in my way. Yeah, he's freaking me out. But Minnesota's coming to town. And Chad, Minnesota has allowed 13 passing touchdowns on the season in just 4 weeks. Not too bad, huh? So I like Russell Wilson this week to turn it around. He had 2 touchdowns this past week, and it felt like he failed. It's because he's been throwing for like 5 a game. So, look, I think Russell Wilson has a pretty good game. They're at home. The next guy on this list, my like is Jimmy G. Now, this is an asterisk if he plays. I think he's going to play, Chad, but Jimmy G is playing the Miami Dolphins, and Miami's allowing the 4th most passing yards per game in the NFL right now. The 4th most. So not only that, but they're allowing they have allowed the 5th highest passer rating against opposing quarterbacks on the season. So, Jimmy G is a surgical type guy. He reminds me of Tom Brady in certain ways. Now, before you guys get excited, he's no Tom Brady. All right. There's only one Braids, and that's my guy. But I love me some Jimmy G this week, especially if he plays. He's going to be fresh. They're going to be playing the Miami Dolphins. I'll take that all day long.
Hate.
And then for my hate, Chad, this week, Baker Mayfield. Now, every one of the Baker fans out there are rolling their heads right now. Oh, look what he did to the Cowboys. Well, that was against the Cowboys, all right? This week, they're playing the Indianapolis Colts. And look, Indy is the number 1 defense against the pass. And at the end of the day, they're allowing 175 yards per game to opposing quarterbacks. And their average passer rating that they're allowing, Chad, 68.4 passer rating. That's terrible. So, look, Baker Mayfield is no Russell Wilson. He's no Pat Mahomes. And because I think he's a very average quarterback on a very good coach team now. And I'm just not going to trust Baker Mayfield against a defense like that.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, Brian, let me talk about mine.
Love.
I love Kyler Murray like I have all season. But this week he's going against the New York Jets. The Jets are bad. We know it for sure. Adam Gase seeing tacos all over the place. He's about to see Kyler Murray all over the place. Kyler Murray's going to be tossing up that salad. What? He's going to be putting together the ground pound beef. What? I hate everything I'm saying right now. Kyler Murray, though, I don't hate. I love him. Let's get into my next one here. The worst. Sean Watson. I only like him. He's going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a defense that is it's bottom of the barrel, allowing for quarterbacks to score all over them. Sean Watson with a new coach there. I think he's going to try and take over the game himself, try to self-coach, self-manage this team. I think he puts it into his own feet at certain times. So I've seen some rushing touchdowns. I'm seeing some passing touchdowns. I like Deshaun Watson this week. Put him in your lineups if you have him. Brian's got the sunglasses back on. He's ready to go, but you're putting him on too soon, Brian. Putting him on too soon because I got to talk about my
hate.
And that is Thomathan Bradythan against the Chicago Bears.
This
is a tough defense. Okay, they're pretty good. I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Big Mac. Mac and cheese. The Mac.
Big old Mac. Give me that mac and cheese. Give me the chili mac.
So Khalil Mack is going to be all over him. That's pretty much what I'm getting at. He just lost O.J. Howard. Pretty much his entire wide receiver core is injured right now. I don't know if you noticed, but Mike Evans is hurt. Scotty Miller got hurt. Chris Godwin is still out. He just lost O.J. Howard. So this is going to be a rough one for Tom Brady. And I'm staying away from it. I'm not starting him. I don't hate him in real life, but man, do I hate him this week and put him in my fantasy lineups. Brian, let's talk about running backs.
Love.
Well, Chad, let me tell you about a guy that I do love, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Helaire? Can we get the drop? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is playing the Las Vegas Raiders this week. I almost said this year, by the way. This week, 9th most yards in the NFL this year against opposing running backs, and they are allowing the most. They're tied for the most touchdowns against opposing quarterback or running backs this year. They're also second in allowed receiving yards per game. They're allowing 67 receiving yards per game to opposing running backs. Hey, Chad, quick question. What does Clyde Edwards-Helaire love to do? Catch the ball out of the backfield. Get Clyde in your lineups this week. I see him as a potential top 5 running back this week. Absolutely love him.
Thought you were going to say bake pies.
Yes. All right, David Johnson is my like this week. I had him on my list last week. He did pretty decent. Not bad. I believe 10 fantasy points and half-point PPR. Didn't get in the paint. That was really the tough one. All right, I wanted to see that. But here's the deal. This week, a little bit different story. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville has allowed over 100 yards per game to opposing running backs and also an additional 56 yards per reception per game. They are the sixth most points to running backs this season in Jacksonville. Love David Johnson this week, or I should say like David Johnson this week, and see him as a viable starter. Definitely get him in your lineups.
Hate.
And the guy I hate this week, hate is a strong word, Chad. Should we consider?
Is it?
No, it's not. All right. The guy I hate this week, all right, I'm filled with it, is Joe frickin' Mixon. All right. Love Joe Mixon on the season. Hate Joe Mixon this week. Number one, a lot of people are going to be chasing those points from last week. He had 3 tuds in the game, which, wow, what a game, by the way. But this week, Joe Mixon against the Baltimore Ravens. I said it earlier this season, not starting any running back against that Baltimore Ravens defense. I ain't messing around. I didn't even start in my boy Antonio Gibson this past week. He scored the first touchdown against them. Where you at, Gibbs? But 7th against running backs this season, only allowing 77 yards per game on the ground and 57 yards per game in the air. 1 touchdown on the entire season. That offensive line in Cincinnati is going to have a day. I don't see Mixon doing what he did last week. Don't like the matchup. Find a better choice. Mixon out.
Like he just dropped the mic. All right. Let's get into my running backs.
Love.
I love Todd Gurley. Have you ever heard that song, Girls? Do, 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 do. That's what's in my head right now. If you haven't heard it, look it up. Great song. It's terrible. It's a horrible song. Todd Gurley is not going to be terrible. Brian's currently looking it up on his phone.
No, not.
He's going to have a great game. It's Carolina. Their defense is much improved from last year. Let me tell you that right now. But it doesn't matter. Todd Gurley is in the top 10 in rushing touchdowns this year. And it's kind of what he does every year. He's not really reliable on the ground. He's not really reliable in the air, but where he is reliable is scoring touchdowns, and I see him getting at least 1 in this game. Get him in your lineups. I love him this week against Carolina. Look, if he plays, this is a big time if he plays. Raheem Mostert, I like him. I like what he's doing. If he's going to be coming back from injury, so I'm not expecting a whole ton from him. They might work him back and just have him kind of capped at a certain number of carries. But he's so explosive. He can take one of those carries for 80 yards. We saw it in weeks 1 and 2 against Miami. Look, this is going to be a good game for him. So I like him a lot. Get him in your lineups if he plays.
Hate.
And finally, I hate Commissioner Melvin Gordon himself. He's playing against New England. And this is a defense. This is a team that shuts down the top threat of an offense every single week. Right now, Melvin Gordon is that top threat. I bet you pretty much every bit of my money that they're going to try and stop him. I'm not going to do that at all. I'm not betting you any bit of my money, Brian. Don't even look at me with those sunglasses. Melvin Gordon, keeping him out, hate him, don't like him. What? Wide receivers, Brian, go.
Love.
Oh man, Melvin Gordon fantasy points. Where are they? It was in my mind. I just couldn't get it out, man. I'm sorry. All right, the guy I love this week at the wide receiver position, Tyler Lockett, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks. I talked about Russell Wilson earlier. If I love Russell Wilson, well, he's got to throw it to somebody. Tyler Lockett had kind of a rough week this past week against Miami. I see a bounce back in the making here. Minnesota has allowed the fifth most to the wide receiver in receptions for yards per game. 204 yards per game is what they're averaging, and they're tied for sixth in receptions allowed. Lockett, I see as a primetime game bounce back here. Look, I think Minnesota's averaging 30 points per game against opposing wide receivers in fantasy, giving him points. It's not like a Melvin Gordon situation here. We know where they are. Get Tyler Lockett in your lineup. Amari Cooper, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, look, the defense is a flaming dumpster fire, but the offense doing pretty good. Amari Cooper is, he's a big time receiver. They paid him big time money. He's Dak's number one go-to guy. You got to start him. I don't love the matchup. I do like him, but I look at it from a competition standpoint. It's a divisional game against the Giants. Last year, when we look at 2019 numbers, 19.6 fantasy points and 16 fantasy points. He had 186 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season against the Giants. I think the offense is probably better this year. I think the Giants are terrible. Amari Cooper, play him.
Hate.
And I hate hating, Chad. I hate it. All right. I hate hating my guy, but I'm going to hate him this week. Terry McLaurin, Scare Terror himself, playing the Rams, aka the Ramses, want nothing to do with it. They're tied for third for fewest points to wide receivers this year, only averaging 159 yards per game against opposing receivers and 11.8 yards per reception, which is in the bottom quartile of the league. I just don't want anything to do it. So if Jalen Ramsey is shadowing Scare Terror, it's going to be a scary Terry day in fantasy points. Get it. But I want nothing to do with that. The one asterisk here is
nothing to do, but I want nothing to do with that.
The one asterisk here is, look, after the game this past week, Jalen Ramsey got into a fight. So doesn't surprise me. He's constantly fighting people. Does he just want to be a UFC fighter or does he want to be an NFL player? But he got into a fight. He threw a punch. The NFL's looking at it. If he's just fined, then I'm not playing Scary Terry. If he's suspended for a game, Scary Terry is an interesting flex play, but that's about as much as I'm going to go for it. So not in love with Scary Terry this week.
All right, let's talk about mine.
Let's do it.
Stefan Diggs. Just talked about him a little bit ago. He's going against Tennessee. Brian, I don't know if you noticed, but Malcolm Butler of the Tennessee Titans is not good.
No.
If you watched any bit of, was it 2 weeks ago when the Vikings played the Vikings played the Titans?
Well, first of all, I watch everything when I got these shades on. All right.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, people watch me. That's how good it is.
Is that what it is? All right, I'm going to take you off right now. Stefan Diggs. Look, I watched Justin Jefferson literally make a mockery of Malcolm Butler, and Stefan Diggs is going to make a mockery of this entire defense. I like what I'm seeing there. I like what I'm seeing between him and Josh Allen. Stefan Diggs, he's going to be digging up some points. He's going to be digging some graves for these people. He's going to be digging into my lineup. I can't think of any more. Moving on to my like. Justin Jefferson, just talked about him. Justin Jefferson against the Seattle Seahawks. Look, this is the worst passing defense in the league right now. And I want every bit of Justin Jefferson, who's starting to emerge. He's starting to show some connection between him and Kirk Cousins in this offense. I really like this kid. He's explosive. He looks good in his route running. He's jumping over people and he's catching acrobatic throws. Brian, what are you doing right now? I hate everything I'm seeing. And I like Justin Jefferson. a lot this week. I'm putting him into any lineup that I have him, and I'm starting him with joy.
Hate.
Robert Woods going against the Washington football team. Look, Cooper Kupp is starting to get this offense. He's starting to show that connection that he had with Mr. Garfield, Lasagna, Golf himself. And Robert Woods is kind of like the afterthought in that. And I think he's only averaging like 7 or 8 yards per reception, Brian. So he's getting those little dump offs. He's getting nothing more than that. Cooper Kupp's getting the fancy plays, and Tyler Higbee's getting the once in a while play action, deep pass to the tight end type of plays. So Robert Woods, I don't like him. And here's the thing. Washington has been pleasantly decent against the wide receivers this year. And I want nothing to do with Robert Woods against the pleasantly good defense. I don't want him on my team. I'm going elsewhere, Brian. Okay? Jeez. Stop looking at me. Stop laughing at me. I don't want any part of you right now. Get into your tight ends. Let's talk about love. Jeez.
Love.
Is it okay? Is pleasantly decent? That was pleasantly decent. I don't think I still feel like they go together, but all right, whatever. Look, love me. I've been on this guy for like 3 weeks, guys. So can I just get some Jonnu Smith? All right. Love me some Jonnu Smith this week. Here's why. Playing the Buffalo Bills. What do the Buffalo Bills have to do with this? Well, they allow the most yards in the NFL to the tight end position, averaging 89 yards per game to the tight end position, and they're averaging the third most receptions to the tight end position per game. Sign me up from Sir Jonnu Smith this week. Could be the number 1 tight end pick this week. Not gonna maybe. Love him. All right, let's go.
Oh, for me.
Zachathan Ertzathan. Is that a thing?
Yep.
It is now. All
Yes.
right, Zachathan Ertzathan. Zach Ertz, tight end, Philadelphia Eagles. Here's the deal. The reason he's a like this week is because, you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 13th in yards per reception against the tight end position. And I look at the Eagles and I'm like, you got to throw it to somebody. I mean,
Yeah, who else?
Yeah, everyone's injured again. So, I think Ertz is bound to have a game where he breaks out this season. He's had a rough start to the year. I think 1 touchdown on the year, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So it's been a rough year for Ertz. And I think they're missing Goddard a little bit because he does pull some coverage away from Ertz. But anyway,
yeah.
I think Zach finds the paint this week, and so that's why I like him. And he's getting the targets. They got to throw it to somebody. So Zach Ertz is a guy that you almost don't want to remove from your lineup. I like him this week. Don't love him. And that's where I'm at with him.
Hate.
Hate's another. Again, here's another one. I hate hating this guy, but I gotta hate him this week. Mike Gesicki. I went to school with a guy named Mike Gesicki. Nope, Gesicki with a D.
Gesicki.
And so every time I hear this name, it reminds me of him. And he was like the king at like falling down and getting injured all the time. So no relation. Anyway, Mike Gesicki this week from a fantasy standpoint could probably make you sicky. What? 49ers playing the 49ers. Look, the 49ers are second in the league against tight ends when it comes to fantasy points. They're averaging, here it is, Chad. This is not a typo. 2.5 fantasy points per week to the tight end position. They're also only averaging 26 yards per game and 3.5 receptions per game. Not only that, but Mike Gesicki over the last 2 weeks, 6 total targets, 2 catches, back-to-back weeks of 15 yards receiving. I just don't see any path where Mike Gesicki has a blowout game this week. I'm not going to be in that. I'm out.
You're gone.
I'm gone.
All right, let's talk about my tight ends because they're the best tight ends.
Love.
I love Evan Ingram. Finally, he's going to blow up, and it's because he's playing against Dallas. This defense is atrocious. They can't guard anybody. They can't do anything. They don't. I don't even know if they know how to read a book or know math or do like bedtime stories. I don't know if they can do anything, Brian. This isn't a good defense at all. Evan Ingram's going to chop them up. He's going to lock them up. He's going to do some good things against them. I like Evan Ingram / love Evan Ingram. What? Moving to my likes. /1 like. I didn't say. I meant to say
plural.
Stay in the same game, Brian. Going to the other side of the football. Dalton Schultz. I love this dude. Look, this guy is basically doing what Blake Jarwin was supposed to be doing.
Oh,
And that is, sorry, my dog's barking in the background. No big deal.
well, it's what she does.
Scared me a little bit. Dalton Schultz is going to be going off and just doing good things against this New York Giants defense. It's not a great matchup, but I really do like it. I just see a lot of connection between him and Dak Prescott.
Hate.
And then finally, Brian, I'm going against you with Zach Ertz, and that is I hate him against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This defense is disgusting, and everything about it is disgusting. I think what's going to happen, here's my synopsis of the game before it even happens. Offensive line, atrocious. Defensive line of Pittsburgh, in the face of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz doesn't know what he's doing, throws football all over the place, doesn't know where he is. Uses the game with an actual video game and gets confused even more and leaves the game. What? Zach Ertz, bad play. Don't like him. Hate him. Get him out of your lineups. If you have other options, I'm going elsewhere than Zach Ertz. I know it's big. Maybe you don't have another option, but I'm going to try to. Dalton Schultz is out there, guys. Go get him. Play him. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't dislike it, but I don't like it also. I mean, I told you that I liked Ertz, but I didn't love him, right? And so I don't know.
All right.
I mean, look, here's the thing. I mean, Ertz had literally, you're talking 4.9 fantasy points against the 49ers, who are the number 2 ranked defense against tight ends. He gets a better matchup this week. I think the only thing again that saves saves Zach Ertz
really irks me
is does he get in the end zone or not? And I think he does.
You're
ill.
want part of it. Let's move into streamers.
This week's streamers.
All right, Brian, I give it to you first.
You know, so Evan Ingram was an interesting pick. You know, I'm with you on that pick for the tight end, and I was about to go with Danny DeVito slash God, what is his name? What's the quarterback's name?
What are you saying right now?
Who's the quarterback of the Giants? I call him Daniel Jones. Thank you. I said Danny DeVito. Thank you.
DeVito.
It's a new nickname, by the way. I was about to go with Danny DeVito, aka Danny Jones. And then I realized I'm not going to put my fantasy career in the hands of Daniel Jones. So I went Teddy Bridgewater, Chad. So my streamer this week is quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. And here's why. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons, who are literally the worst. Okay. They're terrible. They have allowed the most points to opposing quarterbacks in fantasy this season. And look, Teddy Bridgewater's readily available in ESPN leagues and other leagues out there. In ESPN, he's available in 12.6%, or he's only rostered in 12.6% of ESPN leagues. So he's very available. If you're looking for a quarterback stream this week, you could do a lot worse than Teddy Bridgewater. So he is my stream this week, and I'm pretty confident in that one. And then at the defensive side of the ball, Chad, Arizona Cardinals. Look, they're available in nearly half of ESPN leagues out there, 51% rostered. Playing the Jets. I want anybody against this Jets defense, or Jets offense. I'm sorry. The Jets are allowing the second most points to opposing fantasy defenses this year. They're averaging an allowance of 3 sacks per game. They've got a safety already on the year. They're throwing literally left and right interceptions. Are averaging almost an interception a game. That's a lot of fantasy points. So, any team against the Jets, and this week, Cardinals, play them.
Did you say an allowance? Like
yes.
What kids get if they do their chores?
Yes.
The Jets are handing out allowances. Got it.
Yes.
Fantasy.
Hey, look, listen, guy. Look at my eyes when I say to you, let's go.
All right. Quarterback start for me this week, or stream this week for me, is a guy who hasn't been very good for fantasy this year, and for much of anything, really. He is top 5 usually in accuracy. He is this season too. But Kirk Cousins going against the Seattle Seahawks. He's only on 19.6% of rosters in ESPN right now. I don't have to say anymore. This defense has been terrible against the pass, against quarterbacks, and Kirk Cousins is starting to find a stride with Justin Jefferson. And of course, Adam Thielen exists on this offense, and Dalvin Cook's going to make this defense play up, and there's going to be some deep plays to be had. So I like Kirk Cousins against Seattle, and I don't care who knows it. Let's move into my defensive pick, my defensive stream, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Vegas.
Only on 33.7% of ESPN teams right now, which is astonishing to me. This is a really good defense. I don't know how they're only on 33% of teams. I had a double take when I saw it. But I like the Chiefs against this offense. Look, it's an offense that can make mistakes from time to time. And Brian's yawning. I don't care. Can make mistakes from time to time. The Chiefs tend to capitalize on mistakes and turn them into big plays. I'm a big fan of that. I'm looking for some interceptions. I'm looking for some possible touchdowns in this one, like we just saw this past week. I'm into it. I like this defense a lot.
Yeah, I love the matchup as well, and against the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're in the top half of the league. Actually, they're ranked 12th in the league against opposing defenses when it comes to defenses against them. However, I like this specific pick. It's not a bad play from a streaming standpoint. The Chiefs defense is different. And so, and it's a divisional game. And it's a divisional game too.
Yeah. I don't see this defense busting at all. Like, I just see them having either a decent game or a good game, but not a bad game.
No, I'm with you. I think it's a good pick. From a streaming standpoint, I think you could do a lot worse. So I'm with you.
Yeah, thank you. Really nice of you. Thanks.
You're welcome. I mean, look into my eyes. I'll tell you how much I like you.
Can't even see your eyeballs. All right, BroMob. Jeez. This is going to be it for this week's show. For direct and guaranteed start sit advice, head over to jointhebromob.com where you can get Brian and I's guaranteed answers to your questions. We're getting a lot of questions on TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, on MySpace. What? Not at all. It doesn't exist anymore. But we're getting a lot of questions out there. Go to jointhebromob.com to get your guaranteed answers. Brian, I think for the tiny little dollar amount of $2 hairs, the BroMob can be guaranteed some answers. So we're checking it all the time. So get out there, check it out now. Jointhebromob.com. Be sure to tune in every week. Brian, don't interrupt me.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say to BroMob that it's not $2 per question. It is. Yes. I want to make sure we clarify that. It's two individual doll hairs, and you have unlimited questions you can ask us. So jointhebromob.com. Get over there and let's do this. Keanu says so. All right. He told me the other day, number one, don't fire Franklin after last week's debacle. Much better this week, by the way, Franklin. And also he said, make sure you get people to jointhebromob.com. So don't look, you don't want Keanu looking for you guys. Just get it done.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen John Wick, but that's terrifying to think of Keanu coming after you. So do it. Look at his face. Peer into his eyes.
Yes, he likes you.
All right, BroMob. Tune in every Wednesday to stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football leagues this year.
Absolutely. Make sure you head over to jointhebromob.com is one of our websites, but also make sure that you get over to TikTok. I mean, we talk about this a lot. TikTok is the hip hop place to be right now. All right. I did it, Chad. TikTok is the hip hop place to be. Head over, look us up at Fantasy Football Bros. All right. That's our tag. So at Fantasy Football Bros, and make sure you hit the follow button. That's important. And then enjoy the sweetness that is one TikTok for the hip hop schlip schlop.
the worst. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, be sure to check us out on YouTube. It's a great time. You can see Brian and Mize. Brian's the Mize. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Beautiful faces. You can see his terrible sunglasses. His horrible terribleness is just, his whole aura is awful. It's a terrible time. You can see me where it's sunshiny and great time. So check out our YouTube. If you're not on Apple Podcast, you got to check us out. We're pretty much everywhere. We're on Spotify, Google Podcast, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, the whole gambit. We're out there. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast, and be sure to check out our website, thefantasyfootballbros.com, for all kinds of news, articles, and so much more. See you next week, BroMob.
Bye.